simple past tenses, so the past simple and the past continuous. We use the past simple to describe an action that happened or a state that existed at a specific time in the past. That can be anything from yesterday to 10 years ago to 150 years ago. Okay, we also use the past simple for an action that lasted for a period of time, or a series of actions, or a state which lasted for a period of time and is also now finished. So to highlight change between the past state and the present state. We also use it to talk about a habitual action over a period of time in the past, so a specific period of time in the past that could have been a few days to a few years, in order to sequence actions in the recent past or in the past, distant past. So there's no distinction in the English language between a more recent past and a more distant past when we're talking about these specific actions in sequence, or when we're talking about locked, so specific actions locked in a past time, standalone, finish actions. So for example, it could be yesterday. Yesterday I felt so tired that I didn't go to work. Yesterday I had a headache, so I took a headache tablet. In this case, we're also sequencing the actions. I felt ill, I had a headache, so I took a headache tablet. I can also talk about a series of actions. She opened the fridge, she took out the milk, she gave some milk to the cat, and she put some milk in her coffee before putting the milk back in the fridge. We also, obviously, when we're using it for an action or a state which took place and lasted over a period of time in the past, but is now finished. For example, I studied for my degree in Dublin for 4 years, from the year 2002 to the year 2006, or I studied in France for my Erasmus in 2018, or I lived in Ireland from the time I was a child up until my late 20s, then I moved to Italy. It can be a habitual action over a specific period in the time. So while I was in university, I went to the gym every day. I met my father for lunch on a regular basis during those years. I can also talk about the past using the past continuous. Okay, the past continuous describes activities which started before a specific time and continued up until a specific time or event in the past. So they could be interrupted by a past action, which would be expressed in the past simple. So for example, she was driving home when the police stopped her. The activity of driving was interrupted by the police's action of stopping her. Okay, it can be an activity which started before and continued after an event in the past. I was cooking lunch when I heard the news. I continued to cook lunch afterwards. It can be about a situation which was temporary at a time in the past. I remember summer 2005 very well. I was living in Rome at the time because I was studying Italian. It can be the situation in the past can be more permanent, in which case I use the past simple. When I was a child, I lived in Dublin as opposed to I was living, because it was for the entire duration of my childhood. We can use the continuous, the past continuous, to describe something which frequently happened. Okay, and in this case I can use always or forever, and I often use it to express amusement or irritation. Okay, so I find this thing particularly amusing or irritating. So my father was always watching the news when I was a child. I found it very frustrating because I wanted to watch cartoons. Or we all got fed up with Jill, who was forever complaining. You know, Jill was just someone who just gave out all the time. My friends might have said this to me when I lived in Ireland. I was always complaining about the weather. So my friends could say that about me. We can also use it when we're talking about something funny. So there was a kid in my class who was always making funny jokes. but we don't usually use the continuous form with state verbs, okay, in all tenses. Okay, so for example, verbs which express thoughts and feelings like agree, believe, disagree, hate, etc. Verbs which describe opinions, so appear, look, seem. Verbs which describe senses, smell, taste, okay, and verbs which are to do with your kind of inner feelings and desires and beliefs. So for example, that very well-known song by Justin Timberlake, you know, da 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 da, I'm loving it, that is not an acceptable grammar form. However, as a result of the evolution of the language, it is becoming used more often, so will probably eventually end up in the dictionary